Hi guys, I'm Jamie. I'm the author and illustrator of An Elephant Story, and I'm going to share a little bit about this book and where you can find it. It is about the plight of the elephant, and this book tells the story very realistically but in a kid-friendly way. What happens to an elephant that's taken from the wild and put into riding camps or other places where elephants are used for entertainment. This book is told in rhyme, so it's actually really fun to read and easy to understand, and it's told in vibrant illustrations, and it's all based on my own research and observations and interviews as well. It has a resource section in the back with facts about elephants and ways that we can easily help elephants, and also places that we can visit them or donate to that are doing it right. The backstory about why I was led to do this project is because after a really tough time in my life, I really wanted to just go visit a sanctuary and visit a place where I could interact with animals or see them. Just being an animal lover and just an average person who wanted to see some animals, I went on the internet and I looked for, places that sold tickets where I could observe them in a humane way, and I found a place up in Northern California that was marketed like a safari, and I was like, oh, that's great. But after some research, I had learned that my ticket that I bought was actually going to a place that exploited elephants, and they were elephants that most likely were taken from the wild because of their age and the fact that the humans that come to visit were constantly interacting and touching the elephant all day long, every day. And that wasn't a sanctuary. So I kind of felt like, man, I did my best to find a humane place, but a way to also see elephants or animals, and I chose the wrong thing. And I feel like I'm pretty well read, and I work pretty hard to research about my choices when it comes to animals. So I decided, why not take the opportunity to make this part of a bigger project and a bigger mission to educate people like myself, or just anyone who might want to learn more about animals or how to help animals. So I started to write stories and do artwork that would educate the average person or anyone who loves animals. So it turned out that I went to that place to just observe and just see how the animals were and see how they were treated and see what the elephants were like. And I compared that to my visit to Paws Sanctuary in Northern California, and getting to interact with people at a true sanctuary and observe elephants and tigers and bears at a true sanctuary, and then comparing that to elephants or animals that aren't treated in that type of way, or maybe as compassionately or humanely as I would like to see. I saw very drastic differences just in looking at the faces of the animals and their behaviors. At the sanctuary, the elephants were at peace. They were able to interact a little bit more naturally, because obviously any animal that's in captivity isn't going to 100% be able to act like a wild animal. That's why when you visit zoos or you visit places where animals are in captivity, you're not getting the true education of how the animal actually is or how it acts in the wild. So it's really best to educate or get to see animals that are in a wild setting. So that's why it's so important that we support conservation work, because the natural habitats are declining at such a rapid rate now that many animals are becoming extinct. So back to the difference between a non-sanctuary and a sanctuary is the way the animals were acting. I saw animals at the sanctuary that were at peace and that were happy, that were engaging with each other. They looked healthy. They didn't really have many abnormal behaviors compared to the animal at the zoo that I thought was a safari or kind of a sanctuary. And the animals there had all sorts of abnormal behaviors. And you'll see this a lot if you go to zoos. The animals are kind of bobbing their heads up and down, or they're pacing back and forth, much like you would if you were stuck in a room for hours and hours or days and days or years. The elephants were swaying back and forth when they were standing waiting for the groups of people to come in and touch the tusk and take pictures of them in their barns. And that is just something that I'll never forget, is actually observing the elephant that was swaying back and forth She had spent her life in the circus, and given her age, she definitely most likely was taken from the wild. Most animals that we see, like in North America, if they're older and they've been to the circus, they most likely were taken from the wild, because that was very common in the 80s. Now you're seeing more being bred in captivity for entertainment. I'm definitely not in support of that either, but that would be a main difference since the 80s. This elephant that I observed was taken from the wild, so this animal once knew what it was like to be in the wild with her herd, but then it had to be broken and trained to be used in the circus, and ended up at the zoo that I was at. And I'll never forget what that looked like, and I'll never forget the difference in her eyes and her face compared to the animals at the sanctuary. It literally looked like I was staring through an animal that just didn't exist anymore. And that will be the true reason and the true backstory to my story, An Elephant Story. It is why I dedicated my book to that animal. Her name is Paula. And when it gets to be a little overwhelming to continue my work and my projects, I think about her. And so I dedicated this book to her. And I will say that animals have this innate ability to bring so much joy and healing to our souls. And I think from the time we're young, we love and are drawn to animals. I would say, like, the most interesting part of this backstory is that I was seeking out animals to bring healing to my life, considering I was going through some tough times. And it turns out that my healing journey took on new meaning because of the animals. And yes, they have been bringing healing and therapy to my life, because that's what animals do if you allow them to. But I'm able to give back now and be a voice for them, and that's what a lot of my work is now, is just ways to help the average person educate themselves or their families or their kids on how to be more compassionate and how to make kinder choices when traveling. So the back of this book has a lot of great resources in ways that we can help elephants and how we can make better choices. Easy things that anyone can do, whether you work full-time or whether you have a lot of money or no money at all. There's ways that we can try to make this planet a much kinder planet, and hopefully educate our kids to grow up that way as well. And you can find this book on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Books A Million. You can also find it directly through my website, endanimalslavery.net, or you can DM me on Instagram, end_animal_slavery, and you can order signed copies directly. I'm more than happy to speak with you if you ever have any questions about the work that I do, or if you would like to share anything with me. Like, I really enjoy learning about what all of you do and how you interact with animals, or what you think about animals. So feel free to contact me, and you can find my email on endanimalslavery.net as well.